Welcome back. Today we are looking at the ultimate real estate project. We are talking about leaving Earth, traveling 250,000 miles across the dark void of space, and setting up a permanent, thriving neighborhood on the moon. But before we pack our bags, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the budget. How much would it actually cost to build a permanent base on the moon? If we use the traditional methods of space travel, the way we did things back in the Apollo era, the answer is a number so terrifyingly large that no single government, let alone a private company, could ever afford it. We're talking about multiple trillions of dollars. It would bankrupt nations. But what if I told you there's a loophole? A technological cheat code that takes that impossible trillion-dollar price tag and slashes it down to a fraction of the cost? Today, we're going to decode a concept called In-Situ Resource Utilization, or ISRU. Let's get started. To understand why a moon base is so expensive, we have to understand the nightmare of cosmic logistics. Think about how we currently do space exploration. It is essentially the world's most expensive camping trip. Imagine you're going camping in the deep wilderness for an entire year. There are no stores, no rivers, no air, and no rescue teams. You have to pack every single drop of water you will drink, every crumb of food you will eat, the materials to build your shelter, the oxygen you need to breathe, and enough fuel to drive your car all the way back home. Your backpack would weigh thousands of pounds. You couldn't even lift it, let alone hike with it. This is the exact problem rocket scientists face. It's called the rocket equation, and without getting into the complex math, the fundamental rule is this. Fuel is heavy. If you want to carry a heavy payload into space, you need a bigger rocket. But a bigger rocket requires more fuel. And that extra fuel has weight. So you need even more fuel just to lift the fuel you just added. It is a vicious, incredibly expensive cycle. Right now, just to launch a simple 1-liter bottle of drinking water into low Earth orbit costs thousands of dollars. If you want to ship that same bottle of water all the way to the surface of the moon, gently landing it without crashing, you're looking at a shipping cost that is astronomically high. Now, multiply that bottle of water by the millions of gallons needed for a crewed base. Add in the heavy steel, the radiation shielding, the solar panels, the tractors, and the life support systems. If we have to launch every single brick and every single drop of water from Earth, a lunar base is financially impossible. This is the roadblock that has kept us off the moon for decades. To stay there, we must stop playing the role of a camper carrying a heavy backpack and start playing the role of pioneer. This brings us to the hero of our story, in-situ resource utilization. Let's break that down. In-situ is just a fancy Latin phrase that means on-site or in position. Resource utilization simply means using what you find. ISRU is the practice of harvesting, processing, and using the materials found on another planet or moon to replace the materials we would otherwise have to ship from Earth. It is the ultimate form of off-grid living. When early explorers crossed the oceans to settle new continents, they didn't bring entire houses on their wooden ships. They brought tools. They brought axes, saws, and seeds. When they arrived, they chopped down local trees to build cabins. They hunted local wildlife. They planted seeds in local soil. ISRU applies that exact same pioneer logic to space. Instead of shipping a house to the moon, we ship a robotic builder. Instead of shipping water, we ship a drill. We use the moon's own environment to build our home. But what exactly can we find on a dead, gray, silent rock like the moon? As it turns out, the moon is a treasure chest if you know where to look. Let's look at the 3 most critical resources we need to survive and how ISRU will provide them. The absolute most critical resource in space is water. Without it, humanity dies. For a long time, scientists thought the moon was bone dry. But recent satellite missions discovered something miraculous at the lunar poles, specifically in the deep, dark craters of the lunar South Pole. Because the sun hits the moon at a very shallow angle at the poles, the bottoms of these deep craters have not seen sunlight for billions of years. They are some of the coldest places in the solar system. And hidden in that freezing darkness are millions of tons of water ice. This ice is the true lunar gold. Here is how an ISRU water mining operation works. Long before human astronauts arrive, we will send specialized robotic miners. These rovers will drive into the permanent shadows of the craters, drill into the frozen soil, and scoop up the icy dirt. They will then carry this icy dirt back out into the bright lunar sunlight. Using giant, concentrated mirrors, we can focus the sun's heat onto the dirt. The ice will instantly turn into vapor, which we capture in a tent-like structure and cool down until it condenses into pure, clean liquid water. Now, we have water to drink, but water gives us so much more than hydration. Water is made of two chemical elements, hydrogen and oxygen. By running a simple electrical current through our harvested lunar water, a process powered by solar panels, we can split the water apart. Suddenly, we have pure oxygen for our astronauts to breathe. But even more importantly, liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen are the exact two ingredients used to make the most powerful rocket fuel known to man. By mining water, the moon transforms from a dead rock into a cosmic gas station. Rockets coming from Earth won't need to carry enough fuel for a round trip anymore. They can fly to the moon, fill up their tanks with locally sourced lunar rocket fuel, and either head back to Earth or journey deeper into the solar system, toward Mars. This single ISRU technology cuts the cost of space travel by more than half. So, we have water, air, and fuel. Now we need a place to live. The lunar surface is a hostile environment. There is no atmosphere to protect you from the freezing cold of night or the boiling heat of day. Worse, space is filled with deadly solar radiation and microscopic meteorites flying faster than bullets. A simple tent is not going to cut it. You need walls that are several feet thick. Shipping heavy steel and concrete from Earth is out of the question. So, we turn to ISRU. We look at the ground beneath our feet. The moon is covered in a layer of fine, gray dust and crushed rock called regolith. Lunar regolith is formed by billions of years of meteorites smashing into the moon. Unlike sand on Earth, which is rolled smooth by ocean waves and wind, lunar regolith is sharp, jagged, and clings to everything. It is a nightmare for machinery, but it is the perfect building material. Space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency are currently testing massive, autonomous 3D printers. Here is the master plan. First, an inflatable lightweight module is landed on the moon. It looks like a giant balloon. This is the pressurized space where astronauts will live, but it is too fragile to leave exposed. Next, autonomous rovers scoop up tons of lunar regolith and feed it into a 3D printer. Using either focused solar energy or microwaves, the printer heats the moon dust until it melts into a thick, glowing lava. It then squeezes this molten rock out layer by layer, building a massive, thick protective shell completely over the inflatable habitat. When the rock cools, it forms a hardened, impact-resistant, radiation-proof dome. We are essentially building giant lunar igloos out of microwaved moon dirt. By using the regolith right there on the surface, we save the expense of launching thousands of tons of steel and concrete out of Earth's gravity. The magic of regolith doesn't stop at building walls. That lunar dirt is rich in raw metals. It contains high amounts of iron, aluminum, and silicon. In the advanced stages of our lunar base, ISRU factories will literally eat the dirt. They will use high-heat chemical processes to strip the oxygen out of the rocks, giving us even more breathable air and leaving behind pure metal. We can use the iron and aluminum to manufacture spare parts, wires, and tools right on the moon. And that's silicon? Silicon is the core ingredient in solar panels. Eventually, the lunar base will become a self-replicating system. We use a few solar panels brought from Earth to power a factory that makes new solar panels out of lunar dirt, which provide more power to build bigger factories. The base will grow organically, like a plant taking root in the soil, rather than a fragile outpost dependent on an earthly supply chain. So, how much does it cost to build a lunar base? If we try to pack everything in our cosmic backpack, it costs trillions. It remains a science fiction fantasy. But by mastering in-situ resource utilization, by mining the dark craters for ice, splitting water into rocket fuel, baking the jagged dust into thick protective walls, and forging tools from the lunar soil, we drop that cost down to the billions. We turn a financial impossibility into a viable, long-term investment. The moon is no longer just a destination. Thanks to ISRU, the moon is our training ground. It is our shipyard. It is the crucial stepping stone. If we can learn to live off the land on the desolate, silent shores of the moon, we can learn to live anywhere. And the skills we perfect, there will be the exact same skills we use to colonize Mars and venture into the deep solar system. The future isn't about bringing Earth with us. It's about learning to make a home out of whatever world we find. I hope this breakdown gave you a new perspective on the true mechanics of space exploration. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more analytical deep dives, and leave a comment below. What do you think is the biggest challenge the first lunar pioneers will face? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.